The story begins with a strange random moment. A man is standing on the street when a speeding car splashes a wave of dirty water all over him. Most people would have started screaming in anger, but not Fernando. Instead of getting mad, he calmly drops his cigarette and watches it get swept away by the water, swirling directly into a storm drain. In that split second, something clicks in his brain. He realizes that these drains run like a hidden map directly under the streets, and possibly directly under the biggest bank in Argentina. He follows the flow of the water, staring at the massive bank building, and a wild idea begins to take shape. This was his chance to pull off a $19 million heist. This is it. There must be a way into the bank from under this drain. He whispers this to himself, taking the first step into a plan that most would call pure insanity. Fernando isn't a professional criminal. He's an artist and a sculptor who has spent 20 years struggling to find success. To pay the bills, he teaches martial arts part-time. He views the world differently. He brings a friend along to test his theory. They drop a measuring tape into the drain right outside the bank to mark the exact spot. Then they climb into the dark, filthy sewer system from another entrance and crawl through the muck. When they reach the exact mark they made, Fernando realizes his dream is actually possible. The vault was right above their heads. Fernando might have been a struggling artist, but he had a genius-level brain. Once he locked onto an idea, he mastered it instantly. He immediately took the plan to his closest friend, Sebastian. Sebastian was a high-level technician, the kind of guy who understood machines better than people. At first, he called Fernando insane, but after looking at the sketches and the drainage maps, his eyes widened. "It's crazy," Sebastian admitted, "but it's actually possible." However, Sebastian was a realist. He warned Fernando that a job this massive needed serious funding, specialized vehicles, and high-tech equipment. To solve the money problem, Fernando reached out to his relative, a man known as the Doctor. On the outside, Doc was a religious man, always talking about faith, but underneath, he was greedy and looking for a massive payday. Through Doc, Fernando was introduced to the final piece of the puzzle, Mario. Mario was a masterpiece of a human being. Elegant, smooth-talking, and incredibly manipulative. He could convince a fish to climb a tree. He was a professional thief. Mario could crack almost any safe in under 10 minutes, but his real weapon was his mouth. He lived a double life, giving every cent he stole to his daughter Lucia, while keeping his criminal identity a dark secret. One night, as Mario was preparing for a small-time job, he realized someone was watching him. He noticed a figure following his every move through the dark streets. The tension peaks when Mario suddenly snaps. Thinking he's being hunted by a spy, he smashes the window of Fernando's car and screams, "Who are you? Who sent you?" Fernando doesn't flinch. He sits there in total silence, calm as a statue. It's only hours later, after a frantic call from the doc confirming that Fernando is one of them, that the air clears. Finally, Fernando and Mario sit down for their first real meeting. Fernando doesn't waste time with small talk. He explains the massive excavation required and reveals the data he gathered with his measuring tape. The distance from the street to the sewer floor is exactly 18 meters. But then he drops a bombshell, a secret that could kill them all. Every 2 days these drains completely flood, Fernando warns. So they have to monitor weather reports with surgical precision. Next, the crew gathers with the doc to tackle their biggest hurdle, the bank's high-tech motion sensors. Most thieves would be terrified of lasers and heat detectors, but Fernando's genius brain has already found a solution. He explains that these systems work by detecting the difference between the room's temperature and the heat of a human body. If we wear thick, heavy-duty insulated jackets, the sensors are useless, Fernando proves. By trapping their body heat inside the suits, to execute the next phase, Fernando and Sebastian enter the bank disguised as ordinary customers. Their goal is to map out every inch of the interior. While walking through the lobby, Fernando deliberately starts acting suspicious, pretending to snap photos of the security layout. As he expected, the guards take the bait. They call the police and drag Fernando into the security backrooms, the very places a regular customer is never allowed to see. This was exactly what Fernando wanted. While the guards were busy interrogating him, He was mentally recording every camera angle, every sensor, and the exact location of the vault. When the police arrive and search him, they find nothing. The officers are left feeling embarrassed for detaining an innocent man. The moment he steps outside, using only his memory, he sits down and draws a perfect, professional blueprint of the entire bank. With the team's confidence at an all-time high, Fernando gives the doc a new mysterious assignment. To finalize the measurements, Fernando hops on a bicycle and rides past the bank repeatedly. He is measuring the exact distance from the storm drain to the vault's foundation with every rotation of his pedals. After Fernando drops the final coordinates, the distance from the street to the bank is exactly 7 meters and 10 centimeters, and the depth to the sewer floor is 18 meters. If we are off by even 1 centimeter, Fernando warns, the entire plan is dead. Using complex geometry, he calculates the exact diagonal path they need to dig. He takes the crew down into the filth of the sewers to mark the starting point. They begin the grueling work of digging the tunnel by hand, inch by inch, through cold mud and concrete. While the diggers are underground, Mario goes back to the surface. He enters the bank acting like a wealthy businessman, claiming he wants to rent a high-security locker for his valuables. He is memorizing the technical specs of the locking mechanisms and the thickness of the vault walls. To keep things low profile, they rent a beat-up van from a relative named Alberto. Slowly, what started as a wild idea was turning into a military-grade operation. But even with the tunnel moving forward, a crack appears in the team's morale. Mario starts getting cold feet. He sees a massive hole in the plan, the escape. How do we get in? More importantly, how do we get out once the alarms go off? Mario demands. I have a daughter to think about. Mario walks away, threatening to quit. After that, while lying under the night sky with his girlfriend, staring at the stars, the solution suddenly flashes in his mind. He tracks down Mario, who has been hiding out. Fernando explains the fatal flaw in the bank's security. The security system is designed for 2 scenarios, he says. One for when the bank is open, and another for when it's closed. It isn't built to handle both at the same time. The plan was brilliant in its simplicity. They would walk in through the front door like ordinary people while the bank was open, but they would leave through the secret tunnel only after the bank was closed. By merging these 2 worlds, they would create a blind spot that the police could never see. When the big day finally arrived, everything moved with terrifying speed. Sebastian crawled through the dark, cramped tunnel, positioning himself directly beneath the vault. Meanwhile, Alberto, Mario, and Fernando calmly walked through the front doors, looking like any other customers. They pulled out their weapons. Unbeknownst to everyone, they were just plastic toys, and seized total control. They ordered the staff and customers to the floor, tying them up as hostages. But then the bank's CCTV operator managed to trigger a silent alarm before being caught. Within minutes, the building was surrounded. What was supposed to be a quick robbery had turned into a high-stakes hostage standoff. Unfazed, the crew dragged the operator and the manager into a back room, locking them away. They systematically disabled the entire CCTV system. In the basement, the floor suddenly gave way. Sebastian burst through the concrete from the tunnel below. He and Fernando locked themselves inside the vault room. Sebastian revealed a custom-made hydraulic tool he had engineered specifically for this job. He didn't need minutes to crack a safe. He began ripping through the metal lockers in seconds. While the police were outside negotiating for lives, the crew inside was already harvesting millions. Outside, the scene is pure chaos. The bank is surrounded by hundreds of police officers, heavy army units. To handle the crisis, the police bring in Saleo, a top-tier expert negotiator. Mario picks up the phone, using a fake name and a voice full of fake nerves. His mouth is his deadliest weapon. To keep the cops guessing, he starts making wild demands. Get those snipers off the roof right now, Mario screams into the phone. If I see one more helmet up there, I start dropping bodies. The police are stunned. They actually had hidden units on the roof, and they can't figure out how the robbers know. Panicked, the police commander orders his men to retreat. While Mario plays these psychological games to waste time, Fernando and Sebastian are in the basement, emptying lockers one after another. When one of the hostages starts panicking because they desperately need to use the bathroom, Mario actually lets them walk out the front door. Fernando doesn't stop him. He knows that a person who just wet their pants in fear is in no condition to give the police any useful intel. Sure enough, when the cops try to question the released hostage, the poor man is so traumatized and embarrassed that he can't say a single coherent word. Suddenly, in the middle of the silence, an old lady's phone starts ringing. The crew finds out it's her birthday. Instead of getting angry, they start treating the hostages like guests at a twisted party. Mario does the unthinkable. He grabs some biscuits and a lighter from another hostage and throws a mini birthday party for the old woman. When he finally lets her walk out the front door, she isn't crying, she's smiling. She tells the waiting police and the live news cameras, "Those boys treated me so well." This statement sends shockwaves through the country. The public started to see them as gentlemen thieves. Back at the command center, the lead negotiator's boss is losing his mind. Under heavy legal pressure, they bring in a judge to talk to Mario and force a surrender. But Mario isn't intimidated. He flips the script, insulting the judge and shouting, "You think these games scare me? Do whatever you want." Then he tells the police, "I'm done talking to you. If you want to negotiate, talk to my lawyer," and gives them a phone number. The police dial the number immediately, but the phone starts ringing inside the bank. Mario had given them the number of a random customer's phone. He picks it up and changes his voice. "Hello? Ah, yes, officer. It's been a long time since we spoke." He spends the next several minutes pretending to be his own lawyer, acting like he's known the negotiator for years. While the police are busy talking to a lawyer who doesn't exist, time is ticking away. In the basement, the clock has run out. Fernando and Sebastian have worked at breakneck speed, and the vault is finally stripped bare. The millions are packed. The 147 lockers are empty. Now the hardest part begins, the disappearance. But Soleo, the negotiator, isn't a fool. He starts to sense something is wrong with the liar story. He decides to test his theory by calling Mario's number and the lawyer's number at the exact same time. When both phones ring simultaneously inside the bank, Soleo's face goes pale. He realizes they've been played for fools for hours. The bank director arrives and looks Soleo in the eye, swearing that the front door is the only way in or out. But Soleo's gaze drifts toward a nearby storm drain. His gut tells him the truth, that the sewer is their secret exit. However, when he warns his commander, he is shut down instantly. "Stay in your position and wait for my orders," the commander barks. "Don't do anything stupid." This was the turning point. Inside, Fernando gathers all their weapons into a pile and leaves a small handwritten note on top. Mario secures the hostages in a room, locks the door, and the crew vanishes into the shadows of the records room. One by one, they slip into the secret tunnel with bags of cash and jewelry, leaving absolutely no trace behind. Minutes pass. The hostages, realizing the robbers haven't spoken in a long time, finally break free and start calling their families. Outside, when the police intercept these calls, they realize the terrifying truth. The crew is gone. The police and army swarm the bank like a tidal wave, smashing through doors and clearing rooms. But they are far too late. By the time the first officer reaches the vault, they are vanish. Deep inside the tunnels, the crew is executing the final move. Using the manual dam they built, they had controlled the water levels to float their inflatable boats. Back inside the bank, the police are frantically searching every corner. Soleo notices something strange in one of the back rooms. One specific area of the floor looks unusually clean compared to the rest of the dusty basement. He orders his men to move a heavy cabinet, and there it is, the mouth of the tunnel, nearby, only to realize the truth. Every single weapon they used was a toy. They realization they are being idiots the whole time. But the most brilliant part of the escape was happening 3 kilometers away. Remember that old beat-up van they rented? It wasn't just parked on a random street. It was positioned directly over a specific manhole cover. The driver, their secret partner, was pretending to change a flat tire, acting completely normal. Underneath the van, The manhole cover was open. The crew was passing bags of gold and cash straight through the floor of the vehicle. While police sirens were screaming blocks away, they were calmly loading their loot into a van and driving off into the sunset. By the time Saleo and his team finally crawled through the tunnel and emerged at the manhole, all they found was an empty street and the smell of exhaust. The robbers were gone. The final and most poetic moment of the heist happens. They find the note Fernando left behind. As they read the words, the silence in the room becomes heavy. In a neighborhood of rich folk, without weapons or grudges, it's only money, not love. When the officers read this, it makes everyone stop and think, was this just a simple robbery, or was it a massive slap in the face to a broken financial system? But the story doesn't end with their escape. After shaking the foundations of Argentina and leaving zero evidence, Fernando and the crew began to live their dreams. The police had no leads, the case went cold, and it was recorded in history as the perfect heist, the one that could never be solved. With their share of the millions, the Doc renovated his church, seeking a different kind of redemption. Mario transformed his daughter's life, giving her the luxury he always promised. Fernando finally let go of his years of frustration and found peace, while Sebastian moved away to live a quiet, comfortable life with his wife and children. However, while most of the crew was being careful, Alberto, the man who rented the van, he started an affair with a younger woman, making the most foolish mistake. When Alberto's wife discovered he was having an affair with a younger woman, her heartbreak turned into a toxic. She walked straight into the police station and dropped a nuclear bomb of information. "My husband is fighting with me. He is a man of the team who robbed Banco Rio," she told the stunned officers. The police swarmed the home, and just as she said, they found stacks of cash hidden in the roof. The secret was out. The perfect heist was suddenly the biggest lead in the country. News spread like wildfire, and the crew realized the game was over. Sebastian, knowing there was nowhere left to run, surrendered to the authorities. One by one, the others were hunted down. Mario, the police surrounded his new home while he was sharing a beautiful, quiet moment with his daughter, Lucia. Seeing her father handcuffed and dragged away was a sight no one expected. Meanwhile, the mastermind Fernando had fled to the mountains of Paraguay. He tried to disappear into the wilderness. He decided to stop hiding and face the music, surrendering peacefully to the law. When Lucia visited him in prison, she held his hand through the glass and whispered, "Don't be afraid. I know you're coming back." You might think that robbing the biggest bank in the country would mean a life sentence behind bars. But 19 months later, the prison gates swing open. Fernando walks out, wearing a simple suit instead of a blue prison uniform. Waiting for him at the curb is a gleaming, ultra-luxury car. Mario wearing a wide, expensive grin. "If you have enough money, what is impossible?" Mario laughs as Fernando slides into the leather seat. A story that proved the most dangerous weapon in a bank isn't a gun, it's a genius mind. What's your take on this ending? If you were a man, don't tell your wife or girlfriend any secrets. That's the most important lesson of the movie. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you loved this movie, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Climax Review. Until the next masterpiece, stay sharp.